Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Apex Sunday, the podcast where we discuss Formula One. We're two petrol heads. I'm with Rob Ross. I'm John Dowsett. And please click the like if you like this, share, subscribe. And today we're talking about what, Rob?
The 2021 Turkish Grand Prix. And we'll start with, I guess, Honda. I guess maybe it's Red Bull doing a tribute to Honda. This was supposed to be the Japanese race, but it was replaced by Turkey because of the COVID situation. So I kind of like the all-white Red Bulls. What did you think of them?
Keep it. Love it.
I liked it as well. I didn't care for the yellow and white too much, but other than that, I thought it was a really good-looking car. And I thought they lost a bit of an opportunity with the Honda Red Wing. I guess that's a motorcycle thing, but they could have put the red wings on the car somewhere and tied it in with the Red Bull gives you wings kind of thing. But, you know, the other thing is Honda is actually supplying a Red Bull next year with the engines because their engine factory won't be done yet. So they won't have Honda credit, but they still will be doing the Honda engines from Japan next year as well.
Interesting. I you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the old Williams and BAR and Hesketh, the beautiful white cars. We need white cars back.
Yeah, simple. The more simple, the better, I find.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I've never been a fan of the blue and the dark blue and the red and the yellow on the Red Bull. So, but those are the colors of the brand, so that it's not going anywhere.
It's also, who really cares? It's kind of like when I ask somebody or tell somebody about a new car and they say, "Oh, what color is it?" You know. Anyway,
right.
I digress.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to qualifying for this race. Boring.
Though the big thing for me was Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it?
Staggering. Got into Q2. What a guy. I don't know how he did it. I would have loved to hear Gunther Steiner talk about it and how he did it, but he'd probably just say hard work and yeah.
We saw another sort of a wet to dry kind of situation. So the tires were slower to heat up and slower to grip because they were talking about this circuit like had incredibly high grip compared to last year.
High grip in the wet, unlike any other circuit.
Yeah, well, they milled it or something. They did something because the grip levels were so low last year. So
yes, they
were pretty happy with that. But they said it was like 10 seconds faster this year.
And no support races, from what I understand.
Well, not too much of a surprise.
Yeah.
We had Tsunoda spin off in Q1. Russell got out of Q1 up to 11th. Ricardo struggled though, didn't he?
So
that was interesting.
Tsunoda, I think McLaren struggled the whole weekend.
Yeah, not their circuit.
No.
Tsunoda, despite his spin, made it into Q3. Fernando had his best qualifying, so that was interesting to see. And again, Gasly in fourth, out qualifying Perez.
Incredible.
It is, isn't it? Anything else about qualifying?
Yeah, I mean, Bottas getting the tire when Hamilton had the fastest lap. Right. Again, another one of those silly things. You know, I believe if you've got the fastest lap, you should be going down and on the record books as having the pole position, and it doesn't work that way because of Lewis's penalty. Once again, strikes again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But other than that, no, there's not that. I don't have much else to say about it.
Okay, well, let's move on to the race. So for the race, we started in the wet on intermediates. And the key with that is there's no DRS, which I thought kind of made Hamilton's race a lot harder because with DRS, he would have been quicker up the field, I think. But
probably
the other thing is the first lap, we had a terrible penalty again against Gasly where
yeah,
he was
ridiculous.
He was in between two cars. What was he supposed to do?
Right. It's the
I don't
start.
understand it.
It's the start. I don't think they should allow penalties in the first lap unless it's really, really, really blatant. That was just purely a racing incident. You know, the one thing that I was taught by one of my mentors is when the flag drops, you stick your foot in it and you don't take it out until you absolutely have to. Don't. If you have to go on the grass, go on the grass. Just you. It's the start, man. It's like everything, and that's what everybody does in Formula One. And so for Gasly to get sandwiched like that and then get a penalty, the upside of it is it didn't really affect his result.
No, he's lucky in that respect, but still, it was an absurd penalty, just totally absurd.
Yes.
And both Fernando and Mick spin right on the first lap, sort of negating their good qualifying.
and just unfortunate. Just unfortunate. That's just a start. You know, again, handing out penalties.
If it's something like Grosjean in Spa a few years ago, then by all means, hand out a penalty. But this was just a total racing incident. And, you know, if anything, it was Fernando's fault, if you want to call it that. But
just give him a penalty because his name's Grosjeans.
Yeah. I guess, so there's that. And the main story for me in the race was Tsunoda and Perez. They were key in keeping Hamilton back, especially Tsunoda. Yeah. He was incredible. So, you know, that they fulfilled their roles in the Red Bull infrastructure, particularly Perez. So, you know, I thought Tsunoda held him off for quite a while. I was pretty impressed by that.
And that was the battle of the race for me was Perez and Hamilton. That was the battle for me. It was nice to see, you know, them going to wheel and Perez not backing out. Can't afford to back out, but
no.
didn't give him any quarter, that's for sure.
No. I also like that they seem to concentrate on Sainz coming through the field for a change, right?
I'm way ahead of the game here, but he's my driver of the race. What an incredible drive Carlos had.
Yep. Yeah. So it was nice that they made an effort because they knew that he would come through the field. So, but he again would have done better if there was DRS, you know, for sure. So, and then we had another gamble with Vettel gambling on mediums. That didn't work on lap 38.
Went to slicks. He went to slicks.
Yeah, sorry.
The only guy that tried it. And you know what? He could have been a hero. Could have won the race.
Yeah, and that's why they tried it, right? Just to
coulda, shoulda, woulda.
It didn't happen. So, and I thought that Lance pretty much let Lewis by. So I think, you know, the Mercedes teams and the Honda teams are
absolutely,
you know, making sure that their star drivers get as many points as they can. So the other thing is, you know, the late pit stop for Lewis. Was it a strategy mistake? Should he have stayed out? To me, I guess, I think that he should have stayed out. And if he had fallen back, he would have fallen back to where he ended up anyways. I mean, this is hindsight, so it's easy to say that.
I disagree.
So you thought he should come in?
Yeah. Did you see Ocon's tires? First guy to run first driver to run an entire Formula One race without changing his tires in 24 years. And it was down to the carcass. You could see the carcass when he came in. Now, what's the next step after you see the carcass? A DNF.
Yeah, just like he had in China all those years ago when he went too long.
So to get the points of fifth instead of fourth, he might have beaten Leclerc, but he didn't beat Leclerc. He might have, but he got points. He got nice points. I think that was the right call. He's fighting for a championship. He's not fighting for wins. And really, the difference between fourth and fifth is not worth a gamble.
Right. Well, he was running third at the time, but he probably would have fallen back for sure.
Oh, definitely.
But I think maybe they should have brought him in earlier, as just when Perez there and Max came in. They should have followed suit. Like, because it doesn't make sense to me. Like, they come in, so we're going to come in much later when our, you know, because that
there's also the gamble.
where.
There's also the gamble that he'd pull it off. There's also the gamble that, maybe he could do the whole race. Wishful thinking. I think that Ocon was probably had that strategy from the onset. I really highly doubt that Lewis had the opportunity to do that because he would have been driving at a much slower pace.
Right. And we had Perez on the podium, and it's the first time he's been on there in 9 races. So, and I noticed that he's back up to 3rd in the championship. So the danger for Lando being in a McLaren and not one of the top 2 cars is not Perez. Bottas is up to 3rd because he won, and Perez is 10 points behind Lando in 4th. So it's going to be hard for Lando to keep that spot, but this could have been an outlier because 9 races since we've seen Perez on the podium. This is the first win for Bottas all year, so it was just
and this coming a week later after me saying I think that Norris has a good chance of finishing 3rd.
Yeah, that's why I thought
maybe not so much now.
Yeah, so that's all it takes, right? Is the top teams performing like they should for a change, and that happens. And
Ferrari, oh my God, did Ferrari just come on like Jack the Bear? What'd they do there? Because all of a sudden, they're in the game again.
Yeah, it's very odd how, we see a little bit of a difference between the Red Bulls and Mercedes per track, but it's not massive. Whereas Ferrari or, Leclerc is 17th, qualifying 17th one race, and the next race he's 7th or something. So it's all over the place. But
is it aero or is it setup? I don't. Maybe it's a harder car to set up, and maybe their aero is built for that kind of a track. I don't know.
Could be. Plus they've got new engines too, right? So they've got a little bit more power, more fresh power. But yeah, very peculiar. So we already know your driver of the race. That would be Carlos Sainz. Mine is going to be Bottas, because I thought he pretty much dominated the entire weekend. Well, maybe not dominate, but he did well for a change. He's seemingly doing better once he's not signed for Mercedes, but that could just be a coincidence. So for me, it's Bottas. For you, it's Sainz.
Yes.
And what about rating the race?
I'd put it at about a 2.
Oh yeah, you thought it was boring, eh?
I actually fell asleep.
Oh, did you?
I had to go back and watch it again because it actually put me to sleep. It was like watching paint dry. Previous race was similar, but at least we had the NASCAR event where you got the great start and the great finish. This time there wasn't a great finish. There was an eventful start. Wasn't a great start, but it was an eventful start. But this time, no, it did very little for me. I have to admit that some of it has to do with who I'm cheering on. But that and Crofty's hysteria. No.
Yeah, it's pretty off-putting. I'm going to give it a 4. I too thought it was somewhat pedestrian, but I was kind of interested in the strategy and so forth. So, that kept me somewhat interested. So I didn't fall asleep.
I was disappointed, and I'm just having a quick look at my notes here, and we've covered pretty much everything. I think that it was interesting seeing Ocon doing what Ocon did. I thought that was brave.
Yeah.
I was disappointed in McLaren. Well, I'm not shy to admit, it's not hidden that they're my favorite team. But yeah.
Yeah, because they, from victories to barely making it, it's Lando finished 7th. So
right. And I adore both the drivers. I think both the drivers are incredible and deserve a top-rated car. Hopefully they will have it next year. It'll be a lot more even next year. From what I understand, all the engine mapping is no longer team dependent. If Mercedes shares their mapping with all the people that use their customer teams, and same with Renault and same with Honda. Well, there won't be Honda, will there?
It'd be Red Bull powertrain or whatever they call it.
Right.
Yeah, but they only have their own 2 teams anyways.
Right.
So, and Renault, do you think they'll ever find another team to take their engine? There maybe a new team that comes along or something.
It might change a little bit next year. I don't believe that there's a huge difference in horsepower between the different cars. I think it's mostly aero and mechanical grip. That you've got Adrian Newey doing the Red Bulls. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, I'd take Renault. Maybe Haas will hop on them. Who knows?
All right. Well, let's move on to the news. For the news, speaking of Haas, although I've heard it's more Alfa Romeo, Andretti is trying to buy Alfa Romeo or a big stake in it to get into F1. So they're in IndyCar, they're in Formula E, they're in a few other things. They're in the minor IndyCar leagues and some other series that I don't know about. So I found that interesting that, some teams are starting to, or some entities are trying to come into F1, because in addition to that, there's news, what we talked about at the beginning of the year with Volkswagen and their group of companies thinking of possibly coming in at least as an engine manufacturer, if not more. But the rumor I've heard with them is for Red Bull. But I have to wonder if their engine project over the next few seasons is successful, maybe they'll just make their own engine. But we'll see. But what do you think of Andretti coming into F1? For me personally, I could care less about the Andretti name, and I could care less about any names in any sport. Like, they have their time and we move on to different names. So it's no big deal to me.
It has to do with Liberty Media and the upswing of F1 in the United States.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking forward to the next race in Texas, including me. I love that track.
Right.
I don't know. I guess we need somebody to compete with Haas. and we need another team that's going to move to the back of the grid and play with the Haas boys, because that's what it will be. I don't believe that Andretti has the ability to compete in Formula One. It's a different world.
And they talk about his driver, Colton Herta, as a possible driver in F1. He's won some IndyCar races, but he must be, who is it? Brian Herta? Or
yes.
Yeah, okay. Right. So
I firmly believe that if you're going to make it in Formula One, you can't be coming from American Racing Series.
You mean as a driver?
As a driver, you've got to have the experience on the European tracks and the European culture, and the feeder series to Formula One are very similar in regards to structure, and horsepower and car setup and
tires.
You need that, and tires, all of that. So I don't know. I hope it'd be fun if you got in. Maybe it'll boost it up a little bit in the United States. I just hope that we don't fall into the trap of NASCAR and IndyCar and turn it into every concert has to have Britney Spears singing or Drake.
Yeah. It's because when he was in F1, I actually saw him race in Montreal, and I saw him spin at the hairpin. Him and Johnny Herbert spun there. He didn't live in Europe. He commuted back and forth via that jet that is no longer in service anymore. The jumbo jet, the one that goes faster than the speed of sound, the Concorde, right? So he'd take that back and forth to the races, and if he buys the team, his staff will have to be based in Europe, I would think, to properly do something. So also Lando launched his own kart, LN Racing Kart. So he used I think he said a Kimi Räikkönen kart by a company called OTK, who's doing his Lando Racing Kart. So it's nice to see them, give back to the sport. We've got a new circuit this year, again, Qatar, added to the 2021 calendar. Now that's a circuit that I know because it's been on the MotoGP circuit since 2008. It'll be a evening race out in the middle of nowhere. Looks very desolate. Very, very long straight, like a very, very long straight. So, and then it's sort of like a long straight and then corners all above back to the straight. So I have no idea how the F1 cars will do there. MotoGP races, the last 5 years, the top 5 have been within 3 seconds of each other. I know that's not going to happen, but I'm interested to see how it goes.
Sand issue? Is there a sand issue on that track?
Yeah, it's just like Bahrain and
Right.
basically like Bahrain. It looks almost exactly the same. So, excuse me, even a little more desolate. So, and then the next race is Kota, and MotoGP just raced there, and the riders afterwards said, if you don't repave from corners 2 to 11, we're not coming back.
Whoa, that's heavy duty.
The bumps were very, very, very bad. The bikes were just
really.
Boom, boom. Yeah, and some super bike riders said they would never drive or ride a MotoGP bike on that circuit because the super bikes are a lot softer for suspension. The MotoGP bikes are like F1, like really hard suspension. So apparently they're working on it before the F1 race. They're trying to mow over these bumps to make it
really,
before the race starts. So now cars don't suffer as much from the bumps as motorbikes do. But I do remember Jos Verstappen.
Depending where it is.
Yeah, I think, was it Verstappen? I can't remember. One of the racers last year said about Kota, the bumps were like a ramp, like you felt like you're going to fly off. So, yeah, they're not repaving it in time for the race because that's impossible, but they're going to grind down the bumps. So we'll see what kind of difference that makes. Great circuit, though.
Best first corner entry on the circuit.
Right. And then that whole sequence after turn 2 through those S's, spectacular.
And the elevation changes, beautiful, beautiful.
All the way up and then down in that long straight. So, looking forward to it. A little bit surprised that, for instance, Japan is canceled because of COVID, but that's the government regulations. Texas, there are no regulations, so they can.
They ran the Olympics.
I know, it's so strange, isn't it? Makes no sense to me. No, but there you go.
No.
All right, so we'll talk about America, the next race.
Well, there's the other bit of news, which is Mercedes is going back to silver next year.
Oh, okay. Are they? I didn't hear that.
And Lewis is happy about it. Is fine. No, Lewis is fine with it. Is the news? Yeah, because silver lives matter.
Well, I guess he's the tradition of Mercedes and the silver arrows and all that kind of stuff, right? So
Mercedes has to be white or silver. There's no other color for them. They're fine in white. That was their original color. The original color for Germany.
Right.
And then they decided to peel all the paint off for a race to save weight. How much weight is there in paint on a race car? No, the ancient paint, when they took it off, it couldn't be that much.
Well, yeah, I've heard them even talk about paint today. Like they're very careful. If it's too glossy, it might weigh too much or something. It's just the tolerances and the levels that they go to of accuracy, and we got to be within point this, or we're going to lose this kind of time. No, it's about optimization, isn't it? And
where are you going to put the weight on the car? Exactly. And if you can get it down low, then that's into the center of the car, then low polar moment of inertia.
So they peeled off the white and there was a silver metal beneath. That's why it became the silver arrows.
Yeah.
I see. All right, John, we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you. Click the like, click the share, click the subscribe, and we'll see you at the next Kota.
And you're disappearing into
yes.
distance.
I fell off my chair.
Bye.
Bye.